Good afternoon, 8th grade class. This is Mr. Murray coming to you. It is 2 o'clock on May 19th. This will be our second to last Google Classroom YouTube Live event. Today I'll be going over a project with everyone that you guys will be doing for this last week. So just as a quick announcement, for anyone who's not already aware from having gone to other classes or looking on the YouTube, or looking on the Google Classroom rather, quick announcement, this week's our last live streaming week on YouTube. That means our last two sessions are right now and then Thursday at 2 from 2:30. After this, I'll still be available to answer any questions. If you want to post your questions directly on Google Classrooms, or if you want to email me those questions, any of those are fine. Hey, welcome Malachi. I was just mentioning that this week is our last week of YouTube on live. So today and Thursday will be our last two. Hey, welcome Brianna, welcome Malachi. I wrote this on the Google Classrooms for anyone who doesn't show up to the YouTube session, but I thought I would just let you guys be aware that this Thursday rather, will be our last session. So your packets, you can turn those in, I think starting Friday, anytime next week. Grades close next Friday, so make sure you turn them in by next Friday. But you can turn those in at your convenience. That also means the Google Classroom activities would be due next Friday as well. You're recommended to get them done sooner, but next Friday would be the deadline for that. We're done with the story Tequila, Mockingbird, so if you're not caught up, the material's still available on the Google Classroom site. There is a YouTube version where someone reads the text to you. There's the PDF, which is broken up into chapters so you can read it. And there's also a play version, so if you want to just watch a play version, which is pretty similar but not identical to the story, you're free to watch that as well. There's also clips on the Google Classroom of some of the more important scenes. But what we're going to do now, since we're done with the story, we're going to do a project. So I have two options for your project. You do not have to do them both. You only have to do one. If you do them both, I'll give you extra credit, but you only have to pick one or the other. So I posted both of them a few moments ago, so you should be able to see them. One's a character study, and one is a movie poster. So you can do either one of these activities as kind of like your culminating project for the Tequila, Mockingbird. I'll go over the character study first just because I think it looks more complicated, although it's not more complicated, but I think just visually it appears to be. What you do with the character analysis is if you go to the Google Classrooms, it'll pop right up for you. I typed in some instructions, but I'll go over it as well. What it does is it brings up a title page, and it brings up 4 slides that all look identical. What you're going to do for this is pick 4 characters, any 4 characters that you like. I would pick the ones that you're most comfortable with. I would think Scout, Atticus, Jem, Dill would probably be the easiest, but you could also use Mr. Yule, Boo Radley, Mayella Radley, the Judge, Hecate the Sheriff, really any characters you want, because most of the characters from the story are fairly rounded out. And they give you some good and some bad aspects of all the characters. But basically what you do is you list your character's name right here. So if you want to use Jem, for example, just type Jem right there, and then you list some characteristics about that character. So for Jem, you might say he's brave, for instance, right? So let's say I'm going to do Jem. This will be an example one, and I'll delete it. My characteristics for Jem, I'm going to list brave for number 1. You have to give at least 4 characteristics for each character. So aside from brave, what's another characteristic that would suit Jem? I would also say naive. I would also... For a personality characteristic for Jem, I would put smart. He demonstrates that he's very intelligent and he's very creative, right? So those would be the 4 I'm putting. After I put those characteristics, I then have to explain or give evidence for each one. So if I say he's brave, what's something from the story that demonstrates that Jem is brave? Well, he tries to protect Scout from a grown man. That demonstrates bravery. And he also, if you remember back in the story, he had to go read to Miss DeBose, and he was very afraid of going. Like, he said the inside of the house was very spooky, but he still went. And he also read to Miss DeBose. All right, so that's my evidence for being brave. Then what I would do for naive, I would just give an example of when in the story he demonstrates that he's naive. For this, there's a bunch of different options. He misunderstands quite a few events that especially things that the adults are talking about that he overhears. At one point, he thinks that the people in the town aren't making fun of his dad with the newspaper article. He thinks that they're actually paying him like some sort of respect. That's actually incorrect. They were making fun of him. They had like a picture of him looking like he was chained to a desk, and there were some pretty girls, I think, were asking him to complain. He said he was too busy. That was like a comic strip that was making fun of him, but Jem thought they were actually paying him respect. So you could put he misunderstands the townspeople's opinion of his father, right? So you could use that. You could also, I put that he was smart, you could give a demonstration of when he demonstrates that. For when he's creative, you could give an example when he demonstrates that. He demonstrates he's creative with the games he plays with Scout and Dill. He demonstrates that he's creative with like the plays they put on and how they kind of interact with all those. Any one of those you could use as an example. I'm going to delete that, of course, and you can come up with other characteristics for Jem as well. You could put protective, you could put kind, you could put generous. He spends some of his allowance on Scout, buying her that baton. You could also put vindictive. He gets upset with Scout when she stands up to him, mentioning that she didn't believe in the hot steams. So he pushed her into the Radley's yard in the tire early in the story. But you could also put kind, because when he finds out that Dill isn't able to swim, he takes a lot of time out of his own personal time to teach Dill how to swim. So he does demonstrate a lot of good qualities. He has a couple bad qualities, especially vindictiveness. Being naive is not necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, so that's how you could do Jem. You can pick any character, just make sure you list 4 characteristics and give me evidence or an example from the text that demonstrates those. And you can use any characters from the story you want. I would just suggest Atticus, Jem, Scout, Dill are probably the easiest characters to use, but you could also use Boo Radley, you could also use Miss Maud, you could use Aunt Alexandria, or the Yules if you want to do kind of the villains of the story. And these are personality characteristics, not physical characteristics. So if you pick, say, Tom Robinson, his arm being badly damaged is not a personality characteristic, so you can't use that. You could use brave and give me a demonstration of how he's brave. The fact that he stands, he takes the stand, he answers the questions even though he knows the answers are going to upset a lot of the white population, specifically when he says that he helped Mayella because he felt sorry for her. He knew he was going to upset a lot of townspeople when he said that, but it was the truth, and he demonstrates a level of bravery by, saying that, standing in front of a lot of people and saying that. You could also use brave for Jem or Atticus or Scout as well. Okay, so if you do this activity, you have to pick 4 characters, make sure you list their names, list 4 characteristics, and give me evidence to support that. Your other option, if you do not want to do that, is to come up with a movie poster. This needs to be an inspirational movie poster for To Kill a Mockingbird. So the idea with this is you're making a poster that would make someone want to read To Kill a Mockingbird. So what you're going to do here, similar to like when you're walking through the mall and you see posters hanging up. I haven't been to a mall in over a decade, but I assume it's the same. There used to be a mall that I went to when I was a kid, and there were posters of the movies that were up that were coming out soon. And when you would walk by seeing the poster, sometimes you would be enticed to watch that movie based on how the posters looked. This is before the internet, so you couldn't just Google the different movies that were coming out. You either had to bother to read a newspaper or watch trailers from other movies, or just see commercials for the movies, but you couldn't Google it. So the idea here is I want you to create a poster that would make me or someone else want to watch this movie. So what you would do, you have a couple of options when you click on the movie poster assignment. It will bring up an untitled Google document, and it will bring up an untitled Google drawing. You do not have to use both or either one of these. My suggestion for how to do this, and which would be similar to what a lot of the 7th graders did when I gave them a similar assignment, they went online and they found a picture, and then they basically just stretched that picture across, right? So you could take, say if I wanted this to be my main picture, I would stretch this across, and then, did I go in the wrong one? Give me one sec here. I'm more familiar with the Google Doc than the drawing one. So let's say I wanted this to be my picture, right? So then what I can do is I can insert text over that picture. So I go to the insert image. Ooh. I go to the format image, and then I can make the image line up in different spots. I can crop the picture. So say I don't want Gem in my picture, I only want Scout and Dill. I can crop Gem out from that. I can also type, since it's a Google document, I can type words above, like To Kill a Mockingbird. The title would probably be a good choice. Somehow my picture went away. There we go. And then you can also type over the image. If you go into insert and then text, you can actually type over the image, right? So you don't have to just use one image, you could use multiple images. So say I wanted to do like a collage style poster. Lots of movies, you notice when you see their posters, they actually have a bunch of pictures kind of from the movie. I know Star Wars generally does this. The Avengers generally do this. They have like pictures from the movie of the main characters. You might see like Iron Man flying. You might have Captain America fighting it like a Nazi or something in the corner, and maybe the Hulk like flipping out, and then some of the other characters just kind of posing. So you could do kind of a collage style if you want as well. The reason I gave you the link for the Google drawing was some students in 7th grade actually created posters just by using different images. So I'm actually going to show you an example of one of those. And basically what they did was they used the Google drawing to create different shapes, and then they turned those shapes into a poster. Tristan from the 7th grade actually did a really cool one, so I just want to pull that one up to show you as soon as I find it. There it is. Bam. Okay, so basically what he did was he took the different shapes that you can use on the Google drawing, and he molded those into people. So his story deals with a scarecrow and a guy stuck on an island, somewhere, so like a deserted island. So he typed over the name of his story, he put who it's by, I think Joe's the name of the scarecrow, and he created a tree and he created a fire. So I know it's kind of simplistic, but it's really hard to do it with a shape. So if you do something like that, it gives it kind of this like abstract artistic vibe. So you're more than welcome to do something like that. Also, I know some of you guys are actually pretty artistic. Malachi, I've seen you draw before. I know you're a really good artist. A few other people in class are also really good artists as well. I'm not a great artist, so I won't hold that against you. That's why my suggestion would be to do kind of the collage style, or to just find one picture of To Kill a Mockingbird and stretch that over the majority. But if you are artistic and you want to draw the poster freehand, you're welcome to do that as well. One of the aspects to this, though, is you have to include at least 2 lines from the story, or 2 motivational lines that would cause someone to want to watch it. So, like, I have a movie poster hanging up in my office where it says, like, trapped in time, surrounded by evil, low on gas. And it's a movie poster for Army of Darkness, like a really old, cheesy horror flick from, like, the 90s. But that is kind of like their quote to try to get someone to come watch it. So it's not a quote from the movie, but it's a quote someone said about the movie, right? You could notice similar things on movie posters for, say, like Back to the Future or something like that. Now, you don't have to make your inspirational quote up yourself. It can be something from the text itself. So there are a lot of famous lines from To Kill a Mockingbird. If you can't think of one offhand, you can just go onto a Google search, type in quotes from To Kill a Mockingbird, a big list will pop up. You can put 2 of those quotes on your poster, or you can just come up with 2 quotes. Like, you could say something like, I don't know, you could say something about, like, how reading this story, how it's like a timeless story about racism and discrimination. So you could write something like that and put that in the corner, and then find a quote from the actual the story. Atticus's line about what courage is a good one. The book actually ends on a pretty good line about how most people are basically good as long as you get a chance to meet them. That's a good quote that you could put on there. You could write something on there like maybe like things aren't always what they seem, kind of alluding to the fact that Boo looks like he's going to be like this horrible monster, but then as you read the story, when you get to the end, it turns out Boo's kind of heroic and saves Scout and Jem from almost certainly being killed by Mr. Yule. So you could do something like that. However you want to do it's fine. If you want to hand draw it, just make sure you either take a picture of it and then email it to me, or you could turn it in with your packets. Either or. So you don't have to do both of these. Like I said, you can either do the movie poster assignment, or you can do the character analysis. The character analysis was more writing. The movie posters, more drawing or being artistic, kind of your choice. So if you're more into writing something out, do the character analysis. If you'd rather just make a poster and pick some inspirational quotes from the book, go for that route instead. Other things I wanted to talk about, because there is no YouTube Live next week, and the packet that I gave you had 7 weeks worth of work. You only are going to be responsible for completing 5 weeks of that. I originally made the packet for 7 weeks when there were only 6 weeks of school left, so I had 1 week too many in that regard. And since 8th grade, I think you guys are either going in to pick up your graduation stuff this week. Either you went Monday, you're going Wednesday, or it's being dropped off, I think, on Friday. So it doesn't make sense for me to make you do the 6th week from the packet when you guys will basically be done. So only 5 weeks of the packet are required. On Thursday, I'll go over the answers for week 5 of the packet. That's something I'd been doing with the 7th grade on Thursdays. For you guys, I've just been posting the answers to the packet every Thursday, but we haven't had time to go over them, largely because we were spending that time going over the To Kill a Mockingbird themes and what happened during the chapters. So if you click on the Google Classrooms, you can find the hi Tristan, I just noticed you're here. I was surprised you showed up to the 8th grade, but I'm glad you're here. I used your poster as an example a little bit ago. So like I was saying, you don't have to do past week 5, but if you do, that's fine. I'll give you extra credit. The assignments should be done by Friday, I would say. You can turn your packets in up to next week. I think next Friday is when grades close, so you have till next Friday to turn stuff in. But I would suggest, turning it in, as quick as possible, probably either Friday or, next Monday, Tuesday, whenever. If you're going in to pick up your stuff for 8th grade graduation, your report cards and such, you might as well. Hey, Tristan. I didn't know how long you'd been on here. So, yeah, Tristan, I wasn't sure if you were here when I was showing that or not. I really liked your movie poster. I thought it was a very abstract art style. I thought it was really cool. I tried to play around in the Google drawings myself, and I just wasn't able to get anything even close to as nice as yours. So I was pretty impressed with that. So yeah, so just backpedal on that. Try to get your packets up to week 5 done. The answers to week 4 and before are already on the site. I think I only gave you the answers to the language arts sections. On Thursday, we'll go over the answers to the vocab and the language arts sections for week 5. So we'll do that on Thursday, and that's similar to what I do with the 7th graders on Thursdays. Again, you don't have to do beyond both the activities, the movie poster or the character study, your choice. The assignments for To Kill a Mockingbird are all on the site at this point. So there's a quiz for every single chapter. Some of the later chapters, I combined the quizzes and did like chapters 27 and 28, 29 through 31 are all together. And that's mainly just because, bye Tristan, and that's mainly just because those chapters were so short. It was easier just to combine those. But all those quizzes are there, so if you're not done with those, try to get those done. If you didn't have a chance to read through the remainder of the story, try to finish up. There's a YouTube link where you can listen to the stories. There's also a play version where you can just watch the play. It's much better to read or at least listen to the story than it is to watch it, but if nothing else, at least watch it. That way you get a good gist of what the story's about and why like even nearly was it like 50, 60 years later. Dang, it's a long time. The story was written in the 60s, so you figure, it's got pretty good staying power if it's now 60 some years later that people still read it. And a lot of the themes you notice get pulled up quite a bit. Plus, it's a good story to read because it gets referenced all the time. A lot of later novels will reference it, things that you read in high school and college and beyond. You hear people make reference. I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but I remember when Obama was in office, he actually quoted Atticus from the story. He even did kind of like a little commercial for To Kill a Mockingbird, the movie version, when they were going to show it on TV. So just in order to be a well-rounded person, that's good to read. A lot of good literature, and To Kill a Mockingbird definitely falls into the good literature category. It's one of those things people quote. It's one of those things that have inspired other works of art, whether that's music or other novels or movies even. So it's a good story to have read and to have understood. So if you have any questions on it, feel free to ask those. The quizzes need to be done by next week, preferably before Friday. That way I'm not grading it the day I have to turn it in, but get the work done on your own time. The packet should be turned in sometime next week as well. Hopefully you have at least up to week 5 done. If you have more than week 5 done, I'll give you extra credit for the extra weeks if you completed those. Also, you only have to have 5 weeks done. So if you were jumping around, I know someone, I think from 7th grade, was jumping from like week 7 to week 2 and back and forth, just going by whichever stories they thought were the most interesting. That's fine too. So if you have week 7 and week 6 done, but you don't have, say, week 3 and 4, like that's fine. We'll just substitute those in place. But all right, so if you guys have any questions, now would be the time to ask those over the movie poster or the character study. The movie poster probably will take about as much time as the character study. The character study, you can just type it out, kind of almost going just by memory from the story. The movie poster, even though it looks like it'll be easier, you're going to have to find pictures and quotes. So time-wise, they'll probably end up being about an equal duration of your time. Either one, they're like a project-based. Instead of giving you a quiz, I thought it would be more interesting to give you something project-based, similar to what 7th grade's been doing for the last few weeks. So if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask those. If you think of a question as you're working, you can feel free to message me on the Google Classrooms or email. Either one, I generally get back to them within a couple hours. Okay, I'll take that as there are no questions. I know there's a bit of a delay, so I'll wait a few seconds before I actually close that all down. One other thing I wanted to mention that I mentioned to 7th grade, when you are doing the quizzes, some people have been turning them in, but not everyone's been clicking the turned in page. So if you have an assignment, you have to make sure that you hit the turned in button. If you don't, it just looks like it's still assigned. I can still look at it even if you haven't clicked the turn in button. And normally I do that whenever I notice that whenever I'm grading someone else's assignment, I normally just scroll through everybody's assignment all at once just to make sure. But it makes it way easier on me if you hit the turn in button when you're done. Otherwise, it's possible that I might miss something. It's less important that you do that for like a project like the character study or the movie poster, because once you start working on it, I can kind of see it when I go to the assigned section. If anything's changed, I'll be able to visually see it, so I'll know that you were working on it. But on a quiz or on a like a vocabulary style assignment, if you don't click the turn in button, unless I manually go in to look at it, I won't notice that it's done. So just make sure when you're completing those that you click turn in. Otherwise, like, you just have to hope that I notice it. And I generally try to notice and scroll through, but just in case. All right, so that's the end of our time together. We have one more session on Thursday. Thursday, I will, like I said, go over the answers to the packet. Also, I'm going to go to the school tomorrow, so if any of you guys are going in to pick up your graduation stuff, I'll be in there tomorrow, probably around like noon or so. And I think Miss Miller said that she was going to go in about the same time as well. So we'll see you there if you're turning in your packets early, or if you're just picking up your graduation stuff. So good to hear from everybody. Good to see you, Brianna, Malachi, Tristan. Thanks for showing up. And anyone who's watching this at a later date, happy Tuesday. All right, bye.